Welcome back, everybody. I'm back with more chaotic lore videos. Today's gonna be a big one, but before we get into it, please help me out by hitting that like button, leave a comment below, share it with your friends, and yeah, let's continue on. Today we'll be covering the history of the Overworlders. The Overworld tribe consists of a multitude of species, mostly appearing as human, various mammals, and mythical creatures. One of the main things that makes this tribe powerful is their teamwork. In the card game, playing an all overworld deck guarantees stat boosts and or energy boosts. That also where the tribe's weakness lies. If you divide them up, each creature won't be as effective. The Overworlders are also skilled at water and earth-based attacks. But there are a handful of creatures who is known to utilize fire and air attacks. For the most part, the Overworlders are known to be moral and most noble of the tribes. But like all beings, there are less righteous individuals, like the Overworlder Slurk, who has shown traits of selfishness and spitefulness. Back in ancient Param, the first generation Overworlders were nomadic beings led by Kiru, who is Kaor's ancestor. His advisor was a young Nadrin and one of the earliest known Muges. After roaming the lands, the tribe finally settled on a hilltop they would name Kiru Village, after their leader. Now that the Overworlders had a place to build shelters, farm, and raise families, all seemed right in the world. Unfortunately, the peace didn't last long. After some time, one by one, Overworlders have been going missing, but it didn't take long for Q and Nadrin to track down the culprit. It was the Underworlder leader, Call. Call was forcing the kidnapped Overworlders to work in his mines. In an attempt to negotiate the release of his people, the infamous Overworlder Vlar was busted stealing crystals, later to be known as Vlaric shards. Even though Vlar never truly felt a part of the tribe and all the other Overworlders viewed the local thief as a delinquent, Call still sees him as an Overworlder and thought Vlar's actions was a part of a dubious plot hatched by Kiru. Kiru pleaded with Call that this wasn't his doing, but Call wasn't listening, so a new deal was struck. Call will only release his slaves if Kiru goes to Gigantotopolis and steal the Oriclon for him. Leaving Kiru with little choice, he agreed. He and his tribesmates captured Vlar and considering it was his fault that they were in this predicament, and the fact that he's one of the best thieves in Param they knew. Kiru forced him to think of someone else besides himself for once and help save his people. Once inside Gigantotopolis, all but Vlar was caught in one of the traps led by the giants, the past inhabitants of the area. Vlar was shocked by the trap, but still went after the Oriclon. He saw through it the atrocities Call was putting his people through. This put things in perspective for Vlar. and he went back to Kiru and the gang just when they escaped the trap. Vlar handed the sealed Oriclon over to Kiru and stayed behind long enough so the others can make it out in time to save their fellow tribesmen. Vlar caused the hallway ceiling to cave in on top of the giants and their cats before he made his escape. Kiru made it back and presented called the sealed Oriclon, but the Underworlder decided not to uphold his end. This being the straw that broke the camel's back, Kiru decides to take his best fire warriors and mount an assault against Call and his reign of terror. We don't know the details of the battle itself. Obviously, Kiru beat Call because the creature was never heard from again. But to a young Nadrin's dismay, he never saw his friend again either. It was at this moment two major shifts happened that would shape the lives of everyone moving forward. I mentioned this in my lore video of Underworld City, so I'll bring it up here. Council Pillar is rumored to be imprisoning a vicious creature that only KR knows about. My long-standing theory is that the creature is Call himself. After his defeat at the hands of Kiru, the overworld leader didn't have the power to kill his foe. So he decided to lock him up to prevent him from doing more damage. But Kiru realized he couldn't go back home. Call's defeat left a power vacuum for anybody to claim, including any of Call's followers who would want revenge or try something more ambitious. Either way, it would be dangerous for the Overworld tribe. With a heavy heart, he seized the throne. Kiru probably thought it was best for his people if they thought he died with Call. Now with Kiru leading the Underworlders, he'll dictate how they should move to minimize bloodshed. But eventually, Kiru married, more than likely an Underworlder, had children, and one of them began leading the Underworld tribe if they proved strong enough to claim it. Kiru knew Perrin would be thrown into chaos if Call was to escape, so he passed down the secret that lies underneath Castle Pillar to his children and children's children, all the way to Kaor. That way, only Kiru's bloodline can be trusted to make sure that this monster stays locked up. But once again, this is a theory. The writers of the show hasn't proven this. Call seems likely the vicious creature big enough to warrant to be a secret. The next big shift comes from Vlar. Because of his act of bravery and heroism, he eventually was elected as the Overworld leader. With Nadrin's wisdom, Kiru Village and the Overworld tribe managed to flourish into the metropolis we know as Kiru City. Being a monarch, each descendant of Vlar was groomed to eventually lead the tribe into the new age. For a while, Perrin enjoyed relative peace, although the damage left by Call started the bitter feud between the Overworlders and the Underworlders that lasted quite some time. Unbeknownst to any of the four tribes, they were being watched and studied by the elusive fifth tribe, the Marillions. In the novel, Chaotic Marillion Chronicles, we learn a little more of Perrin's history many years after the tale of Vlar and Kiru. There was a high muge from the overworld named Orinir. He was the most liked and well-respected muge, let alone overworlder, especially by other muges from the three other tribes. It was Orinir who discovered Kaisev, city of the elements, and the golden heptagon, where the crystal table he crafted is, imbuing it with power to strengthen the energy from the fortresses. Over time, each tribe preferred to tend to themselves and focus on their own slice of Perrin. Many years later, after Orinir's time, a plague ravaged the Mepedian territory. It was called the Wasting Sickness, and no muge or healer in the Mepedian tribe could figure out how to stop it. The Mepedian High Muge at the time, Marinus, was forced to swallow her pride and brought the issue to the other tribes' High Muge's attention. Realizing the plague would eventually spread, decided to work together to eradicate the disease. This started a tradition where each High Muge from the 4 tribes met to discuss any issues that would potentially threaten Param as a whole. In the book Chaotic the Marillion Chronicles, the Kalinian Sphere is set at least a couple of decades after the events of the wasting sickness epidemic. The current High Muges during this point is Soranara of the Overworld, Gyrantian of the Underworld, Letik of the Danians, and the main character Kalai of the Mepedians. I've already covered in detail about the story in a lore video, so you can watch that if you want full details. In this video, I'm going to summarize. Kalai discovers a mysterious artifact that would later be called the Kalinian Sphere. The surge of power from the artifact is felt across Param. Even the Marillions felt it, and Mahadiel, the fluid morpher, decides to disguise himself as a Mepedian and sneak into Mepedian territory and steal the sphere. Using his power, Mahadiel incapacitates many Mepedians on his way back to the lake. Now that the Marillions have access to the sphere, which amplifies their psychic powers, decides the time for conquest is now. Thus begins the First Marillion War. One by one, the tribes fell, along with Kaisef. All seemed lost, but thanks to Kalai, at some point, the Marillions were locked away behind the doors of the deep mines, with rotating guards from each tribe protecting the doors and keeping anyone from opening it. Many years later, so long in fact nobody even remembers the tragedy, a young arrogant prince named Maxor was playing with Arius outside Kiru City, with a young Rasnus watching. Maxor often debated with Rasnus because the former believes problems can be solved with violence, while the latter believes a diplomatic approach through talking is the best way. This is put to the test when a disgruntled overworlder named Quisk used music to trap Kiru City and everyone inside. Maxor wanted to make him stop through violence, but Rasnus stepped in. Rasnus asked why Quisk would do this, and Quisk explained his friend was falsely accused of something and imprisoned. Rasnus made a deal. If Quisk would remove the dome, he would see to it personally to look into his friend's case. The bargain was struck, and Maxor learned the value of diplomacy. Years later, after Maxor was crowned king, the overworld territory grew prosperous, although there remains constant squabbling over neutral lands by Mepedians and Underworlders. More so with Underworlders because of the bitter history and rivalry Kaor and Maxor have. The Danians who pose a threat with their growing hive. Also, every tribe is trying to get their hands on the Kothica in order to seize total control over Param. Maxor knows if the tribes continue to fight like they always have, then no one wins in the end. So he tries a peaceful solution. Maxor anointed 2 overworlders as ambassadors, Keenanin and Rasnus. Keenanin has earned the respect of the Mepedian tribe, so she'll be the one to be the ambassador for them. Rasnus, because of his wisdom and diplomacy, he'll be the one to be the ambassador for the Danians. Of course, we later find out the Danians never wanted peace and used Rasnus as a pawn to infect Maxor by infecting him with a Danian parasite. The plan failed and Maxor lost a dear friend to the Danian tribe. But this experience taught Maxor that there's no hope in making peace with the Danians while they're obsessed with turning everyone into Danians. However, things started shaking up when the Underworlders discovered the frozen Falfor. Seemingly, he appears as an Underworlder, but in reality, Falfor is a Marillion, the lost tribe of Param. Falfor gave a false narrative on the history of Param to Kaor, claiming that all tribes lived in harmony with the Marillions at the top because they wielded the Kothica. Then the other tribes usurped their power and was forced to run behind the doors of the deep mines. Kaor wasn't buying it. He knew better because the one thing the tribes agreed on was to never let those doors open. With Plan A a bust, Falfor tries Plan B and tries to hypnotize Kaor, but the underworld leader's willpower was too strong, so Falfor escaped and ran to the power-mad Lord von Blut with the same lie, and Blut bought it. Despite Kaor's efforts, Falfor opened the doors and freed the Marillions. Within a couple of weeks, the Marillions systematically started corrupting the lands and creatures with the goal of flooding Param. We see brainwashed creatures such as Hearing, Brillium, Wakwani, and Olban. Some of the polluted locations we see are the Storm Tunnel, Glacier Plains, Rapasak, and the Lava Pond. Upon seeing the destruction left in the Marillions' wake, Maxor called for a truce between the other tribes and formed the Tribal Alliance to defeat the Marillion threat. Thanks to Nadrin and his human allies, they discovered a brainwashed Tartarak was feeding info to the enemy. It didn't matter to Maxor. While the Overworlders and the other Tribal Alliance led a frontal assault, Maxor, Kaor, and Paru take the fight with the Marillion leader Aun at Lake Balkir. With a combined effort, the trio pushed Aun into the lake, stopping him for good. Since the Marillion War, relationships between the tribes been better than ever. Not perfect, but because of the old grudges with several creatures, but they're not at each other's throats like before. They even came together to stop Blut from using the time portal at Dranicus Threshold and joined together at Tango Toborn's funeral because he sacrificed himself to prevent a massive flood caused by the Marillions. The Overworlders have their set of classes. There are 10 classes in the Overworld tribe. These classes represent a particular job certain Overworlders excel at. To learn more about the classes in Chaotic, you can view my lore video on the channel. The hero class are the strongest of the Overworlders. Their high stats prove this, and they play more of an active role in the tribe. They are looked up to as wise, courageous leaders. Some of them even bears similar characteristics as iconic superheroes in pop culture. Few of the hero class are Maxor. Maxor has similar qualities in leadership, honor, and good nature as someone like Superman. But given he's a monarch, it'll be more accurate that he's something like Black Panther. Interest. Interest is a very caring and just, especially towards her overworld allies. So when anyone or anything threatens them, that's when the claws come out. Interest displays exceptional skills as a warrior, but also takes an active role in the overworld politics. Interest shares qualities to that of Wonder Woman, but ironically appears as the famed DC heroine archenemy, the Cheetah. Or you can go the route of Chitara from Thundercats. Tartarek. Tartarek established himself as an overworld hero because of his years of service, displaying courage, wisdom, and tranquility. His leathery hard skin and shell provides great defense in battle. Tartarek appears like any member of the Ninja Turtles, but with an added twist of Master Splinter. Yakis. Yakis may be a goofball, but in the words of Tom Majors himself, he's as strong as Maxor. Silly pranks. Despite his strength, Yakis wastes time on silly pranks on everyone, even on his fellow tribesmates. His appearance is something like out of a children's cartoon. In my opinion, Yakis' antics reminds me of Roger Rabbit because of how he likes to laugh no matter the situation. Warriors. Warriors are bred for battle and are always ready to fight for their leader and territory. Typically, these class are creatures prioritize courage, wisdom, and/or power above all else. And as warriors, a lot of them are usually clad in armor and/or utilize weapons more so than others. Arius. Arius is a half-man, half-ram creature. His name is derived from the zodiac Aries. Or, given his class, the name comes from the Greek god of war, Ares. Arius works best with creatures, or better yet, battle gear that boosts earth attacks. Avena. Avena is a pink-skinned humanoid creature wearing white gold armor. I've already covered the history of Avena in my lore video about her and her sister Navenna in my chaotic lore Avena and Avena, so you can get further details from there. Avena has similar qualities to that of elves in Lord of the Rings. Her curiosity causes her to jump into situations she has yet prepared for. Kneebreeze. Kneebreeze is a pigman with the attire of a cowboy. His skills are so famous that after his third straight win at the Param Battle Royale, every tribe has given their respect to Kneebreeze. He's extremely useful in an overworld power deck, and it's important to pair him with the Destructible Zuka battle gear. Ramusa. Ramusa is an overworld warrior who is a mix between a Yeti and a samurai. Ramusa was also covered in my chaotic lore video, so you can watch that video on his history. One of the things that makes Ramusa special is his ability to use both earth and water attacks. Fun fact, Ramusa is an anagram of samurai. Strategist. Now you may ask, what is a strategist? A strategist is a person skilled in planning, action, or policy, especially in war or politics. As a leader, you want the right person in your ear to offer a second opinion and lay out all the facts so you can make the right moves. And these four overworlders fit the definition. Tenga Toborn. Tenga Toborn is a humanoid lion. Once hailing from the Spirit Lands, he made Kiru City his home. Tenga's skills as a warrior and strategist is respected by all Overworlders. He is among 3 advisors to Maxor and dearest friend. Tenga viewed the tribal wars for the Kothika as a necessary evil, because if the Overworlders claim it, then it will be finally an end to needless battling. Olkiex. Olkiex is an engineer and personal assistant to Bodil. He is a 4-armed beaver creature. Olkiex may appear to be polite and dumb, but underneath lies someone brilliant. OKX is handy with technology, and some battle gear Odo took credit for was really OKX. Once Odubothex forced OKX to make a battle gear for the Danians, but OKX made it so it was the Danians that were knocked out instead. Vidov. Vidov resembles a combination of a white tiger and a Buddhist monk. Maybe the more accurate warrior monk, because Vidov would fight if need be, only to protect his people. On most occasions, Vidov is a pacifist. He has a personal quest to bring harmony and peace to Perim. He even tried to negotiate a peace treaty between the tribes, but it failed. As an advisor to Maxor, Vidov does what he can to keep his tribe members safe and not on harming the opponent. Hotan. Hotan appears as an overgrown owl wearing a brown cloak. He inhabits a village near Castle Boldrin he was once the village leader of. Hotan was considered a very wise leader, but once he learned the move Armageddon, his over-reliance became his undoing. When Overworlder raiders kept attacking his village, Hotan learned about the powerful attack Armageddon, but not the responsibility. In his attempt to protect his village, Hotan accidentally destroyed it. Now Hotan spends his days rebuilding what he lost. It was a hard lesson about the fruits of destruction. Ambassadors. What is an ambassador? They establish and maintain diplomatic relations between two countries, facilitate trade, commerce, and promote cultural and educational exchange programs. As of now, only the Overworld tribe uses ambassadors to establish peaceful relations between tribes. With ambassador as their title, as we know right now, they only use two: Kenanian and formerly Rasnus. Hopefully, in the future, other tribes would utilize a class like this. Kenan appears as a fox humanoid creature with a red hooded cape and battle armor. This might be a stretch, but upon looking at the image, I can't help but wonder if Kenanian is a reference to Little Red Riding Hood, a combination of canine creature wearing a red cloak. Kenanian is the ambassador to the Mepedian tribe. She got the title after earning their respect somehow, maybe after saving the life of a royal or something of the same caliber. Kenanian has a unique ability to use music of both tribes. It's kind of like speaking multiple tongues. Rasnus. Rasnus was the ambassador for the Danians. His appearance is that of a humanoid rat. Rasnus' story ends in a bit of a tragedy. Early on, he was Maxor's closest friend and advisor. Maxor learned about diplomacy in his youth because of Rasnus. Because of Maxor's and Rasnus' belief in peaceful coexistence between the tribes, Rasnus was appointed ambassador for the Danian tribe. Unfortunately, this was a long con by the Danian queen Alexia. The Danians' only goal is to grow their hive and spread all across Perim by infecting creatures with the Danian parasite. So to earn the Overworlders' trust, she played along until she infected Rasnus to force him to infect Maxor. The plot failed, and now Rasnus, unable to return home, now resides in Mount Pillar. Right now, it's unclear if Rasnus figured out a way to purge the infection, because Como, who was also infected before, figured out a way to purge his infection. Muges. Muses are the magic casters of Chaotic. Not known for their physical attributes, they are regulated to support systems. Overworld Muses cast music that's meant to boost teammates, heals, and negates opponents' music or abilities. Overworld Muses are the backbone of the tribe. Since the tribe relies on teamwork, their music helps boost the tribe's power while hindering the enemy. Nadrin. Nadrin I've already covered in detail on my channel, so you can watch that if you want to know more. But briefly, he's one of the most powerful and respected muses in Param, having been around since the founding of the Overworld capital. Hune Kanan. Hune Kanan is the father of the Mepedian ambassador Keenan. Kanan resembles a fox with orange fur. Unlike his wife and daughter, Kanan is more calm and subdued. He's a perfect counter to Marillion cards because Kanan resets stats. His species, he specializes in fire attacks. Hune Marquardt is an overworlder specialized in Danian music. Hune's appearance has gone through a radical change in the card game due to a real-world error. Originally, Hune's look had an insectoid feature. This confused some people because he's an overworlder. Sometime later, a new card variant depicts Hune with an eagle appearance. I personally think because he's a scholar in Danian music, it makes a bit of sense why Hune Marquardt looked the way he did. But to avoid the confusion for the average card player, they had to change it. For a time, Hune Marquardt behaved in an arrogant manner, believing he had all the answers and he knew better than everyone else. It wasn't until Hune got humbled by Nadrin he learned that he doesn't have all the answers. Elementalists. Elementalists are creatures that specialize in being skillful in one or more specific elemental ability. Blugon. Blugon is an elementalist that specializes in water-based attacks. He made Glacier Plains his home, and his attacks almost always have an icy touch to them. Blugon appears as a combo of a Yeti and a gorilla. Despite his appearance, Blugon is very wise. Iparu. Iparu is an elementalist that specializes in fire and air attacks, which is ironic considering his watery appearance. Iparu has the unique ability to shapeshift from his liquid form, similar to that of the Pokemon Ditto and the T1000 from T2. Outside of protecting his jungle home, the Underworlders, Iparu likes spending his time studying the nature of the elements. Also, Iparu is one of the friendliest people you ever meet. Unda. Unda is literally the servant of water, so of course she's a water specialist. She has a humanoid female shape made up of water with coral as clothing. She's a kind and gentle creature. Unda, along with other elemental servants, help repair the damage left in the Marillion's wake. Zerv. Zerv is an elementalist that not only mastered air attacks, but soon after the defeat of the Marillions, he mastered fire as well. Zerv's feature is a little similar to Marvel's Nightcrawler, without the tail and powers. He's a good person, but Zerv can be a bit crazy and naive. Zerv is fearless, but can be a show-off sometimes. Guardians Guardians are classes of creatures anointed by Maxar to guard outposts and locations within or near overworld territory from spies or invaders. These guardians either have unique abilities that make them super effective in the location, and or they have inside knowledge of the location that makes them qualified to protect it. Frafto. Frafto is the guardian of Castle Boldrin. I've already went in depth with both creature and location in my lore videos, so watch those. But to summarize, Frafto has an eagle-like look. Maxar handpicked his friend to guard Castle Boldrin. The castle has many windows and winding stairs cases for Frafto to exploit. With his enhanced sight combined with his bow skills, no one was able to penetrate the castle. Frafto is similar to heroes like Green Arrow and Hawkeye. Owis. Owis is a guardian of Kordak Falls. He's a humanoid albino goat. He's famous among Overworlders and infamous among Underworlders for his ability to prevent enemies from climbing out of the falls. Owis' greatest shame was when the Danian Akud was the only one who managed to get past him. Attila. Attila is an overworld creature created by Momark, and he guards the castle Momark. He's not very bright, but he's very loyal to Momark. Attila resembles the ancient Greek mythological creature Cyclops. He even comes with a wooden club. Porthin. Porthin is a living shadow similar to the underworlder Dracnus. The only difference is Porthon is a three-dimensional creature and has glowing orange marks on his face, arms, and torso. Porthin is Nadrin's bodyguard. We never seen him in the series, but since technically his favorite location is Nadrin's castle, I guess when Nadrin is alone at home, Porthin just guards him there. Matter of fact, Porthin did thwart an assassination attempt by an unknown underworld assassin inside the castle. This is how we learn about the secret bodyguard. Therefore, Nadrin never worries about watching his back. Caretakers. Caretakers are a bit different than the Guardians. Not only do they protect their respective locations, but they nurture them as well. Viking. Viking is the caretaker of the Eye of the Maelstrom. The creature is based on the mythological Native American creature, the Thunderbird, of the Algonquin tribe. It creates thunder by flapping its wings. Viking typically keeps this land from being disturbed. However, during the Marolean invasion, he failed after temporarily getting brainwashed. Dumar. Dumar is the caretaker of Runic Grove. A long time ago, Dumar became fascinated by the runes carved in the trees and was determined to know their origins and meaning. In fact, Dumar spent so much time there, he started to mutate. Not only he became obsessed with the area, his body started to appear more wooden, and the same runes from the grove appeared on his body. Dumar also resembles a shaman or even a druid from ancient Celtic history. Momark. Momark is the caretaker of both Pure Forest and Castle Momark. Since the castle is within the forest, that makes it convenient for Momark. Momark is the overworld geneticist and the Overworlders version of Omar. Because despite Maxor's protests, he often creates bizarre creatures. Momark resembles a stereotypical mad scientist, but because of what he does, Momark resembles Dr. Frankenstein from the book of Mary Shelley. Brillium. Brillium is a short, stocky creature who is the caretaker of the Riverlands. There's a mill there that supplies most of the overworld with grain. Brillium spends half the time tending to the mill and the other time defending it from enemies. The only time Brillium lost was at the hands of the Marillions. Scouts. The scouts in the real world have the responsibility to go ahead of the main forces to spot and/or spy on enemies and gather info to their commanders. Often, the enemy requires 1 to maybe 3 people to avoid enemy detection, and said scout should be very good at it. Blazer. Blazer loves going all over Param, mapping out new locations, which makes him one of the most effective scouts for Maxor. Blazer is commonly seen riding his motorcycle. This battle gear helps him traverse nearly any landscape, even along walls. Fractal. Fractal is one of the most well-known flyers in the Overworld tribe. This Overworlder is a fusion of a pterodactyl and a dragon. It's even in the name. Fractal primarily canvasses the location Forest of Life. His flight speed is so impressive, Maxor on rare occasions uses Dractyl to spy on the Underworlders in their territory. Gaspedin. Gaspedin is Param's most recognizable speedster. I've covered Gaspedin already, so you can watch my video for a more in-depth explanation. He's estimated to move supersonic. He's one of Maxor's elite scouts. Gaspedin only delivers crucial information. Gaspedin is also one of Momark's successful creations. Lorena. Lorena resembles a green mantis creature with feminine features. Common misconception is confusing her with a Danian, but she's actually an Overworlder. Lorena is good friends with Blazer, and she often finds him mapping new locations while she's on a treasure hunting expedition. Lorena is kind of like Lara Croft of Chaotic. Whatever new artifacts she finds, Lorena relays back to her leaders. Finally, the past. Past Overworlders represent Param of the Stone Age, evolved to the point where they can speak fluently, and each tribe was establishing settlements. The tools they used got the job done, but was archaic. Vlar. Vlar, who's the ancestor of Maxor, and like Maxor had to learn what it means to be a hero and a leader. Vlar is responsible for the creation of the Vlaric Shard. Nadrin, Younger. Nadrin Younger is, as the name says, Nadrin in his younger years. Knowledgeable, but not yet as wise as we know him today. At this stage, Nadrin is still perfecting his craft. Afjak. Afjak, who is the son of Nadrin, that was always eager to learn and prove himself in the eyes of his father. This proved to be his downfall when he tapped into the Dranicus Threshold time portal and was lost in time. Finally, Korg. Korg was one of Kiru's trusted friends and Kiru village's guardians. Korg appears as a chunk of earth with leaves for hair. Because of the resemblance, Korg might be the ancestor to Heptad. And that is, so far, the history of the Overworlders. When the series starts up again, there might be some stuff that need to be filled in that I will probably eventually cover here. But so far, as of right now, this is what we have and what we know to be the history of the Overworlders. Now, I'm gonna let you know right now, when I do something like this, it's gonna be like once a year, because next year I'll then cover the Underworlders. I think last year I covered the history of the Marillions, so you can check out my video about them. But as of right now, that is the video. Let me know what you guys think. Which is your favorite classes? Which Overworlder is your favorite? Which one was your least favorite? How did you like the video? All that stuff. I will see you guys next time for more chaotic lore. Peace.